Hello, everybody. So I am making breaded pork chops in my Ninja air fryer, and so I thought I'd show you all how I normally do that. So first off, for the breading, I use Italian breadcrumbs, Parmesan cheese, and then I also added in a little bit of garlic, onion, Mrs. Dash original, and a little bit of sea salt, and then probably about 3 tablespoons of brown sugar. Um, if you want it lower carb, you can use almond flour instead of the breadcrumbs. And then you could do like a half to half ratio with that and the Parmesan cheese, and that keeps it a pretty low carb as far as that. And then, you don't have to put the brown sugar in. I was wanting it a little sweeter today. If you like a smoky flavor, you could put in paprika into it. Sometimes I do that. So I mess around with the seasonings. But anyway, so for me, generally, as a rule of thumb, when you cook it, you want it to be at room temperature. So I usually pull it out when I'm first. That's the first thing I do, or maybe a little bit before, depending on how much prep I need to have done. And then over here, I have just 2 eggs and a little bit of milk in there, and I whisk that up. And you could also use buttermilk, just buttermilk if you want. I like to use the egg. I always have it. If I happen to have buttermilk, sometimes I've done that. I honestly don't really taste too much of a difference myself. I think I just prefer the egg with a bit of milk in it. Um, and then you want to make sure your meat is rinsed off and then pat it dry. And you're actually going to start in the dried part. And you're not going to get very much crumb on here, but it kind of gives the egg something to stick to. But this is going to give you a good breading. If you start with this, and I kind of, use my fork, move it around to make sure I get all the sides and everything covered. Then you're going to put it in the egg. I got 2 different forks so they don't get all messed up. Put that on the bottom. And then you're gonna flip it around in your egg, do the same thing, make sure you get it all good and covered. Now, if you don't have an air fryer, you can bake this at, I think 425 is what I normally bake it at. Um, yeah, that sounds about right. And then because pork roast dries out real easy, so you actually want to cook it at a higher temp for a shorter period of time to get it to stay a little juicier. And that's kind of what the air crisper does. But I like the way the breading turns out when I use the air crisper. This one actually has a bake setting on it as well, so you can always do that. I went ahead and I sprayed the inside of my uh, pot there with, I use some Pam, so you could use, I like the Pam because it's good for higher temperatures. So when I'm doing the air crisper, that's normally what I use compared to olive oil is what I use a lot of times for other stuff, or butter, depending on what I'm cooking. So I have 3 small pork chops, but they are decently thick. So what I'm going to do is put that in the air crisp. And now, like in the recipes, they always say to let your air crisper warm up. Like, I don't know, there's not a function like that on mine. So I usually just add 5 minutes on, and then I check it for the temp, especially with the pork chops. But, it's really consistent the times because it just depends on how big your meat is, how thick it is. Like if I was doing just 2, it would probably take less time than it would with the 3 because the air will move around a lot better with it in there, with just 2 in there instead of the 3. But that was the second time, right? Talking to you guys and not paying attention to what I'm doing. Just on autopilot, I guess. This one is, I really like this air crisper for doing the meat because I think it does a very good job of keeping it juicy. The one bad thing is that because it's kind of inconsistent with the times, depending on what your meat is like, you gotta check it a lot. But I mean, kind of used to that. I kind of do that anyways all the time. I worked in restaurants for 20 something years, so I don't know. I'm real big on checking the meat temps. Okay. Last one for this one. Sometimes it helps to have a spoon because you can kind of cover it a little better, but I was just doing these 3 little ones. If I was doing fried chicken and I had a bunch of pieces, because if I'm doing fried chicken, I'm not doing just 3, that's for sure. And I, like to use that spoon. Okay. So let me turn this a little so you can see. So I'm going to turn it on. And I'm going to go to Air Crisp, and it's automatically at 390. Oh, that's the time. So I'm going to go up to 415. Nope, 400. Okay. And then I'm going to do 23 minutes, and then I'll check and see how it's looking then. We'll come back. All right. Going to check the temperature. Let's see. Probably the biggest piece. Hardest part about this is not taking all the breading off. Come on. All right, we got, well, it is at 170 at least or above, so we should be good. Pork only needs to be cooked to 160, so, and it's going to cook a little bit more as it sits here. Oh, okay. Oh, look, I kept the breading on. Yay! So now, get my magic wand. Abracadabra. All right. Go enjoy. Oh, keep an eye out for my potato salad recipe at some point this week. All right. Peace, love, and pork chops. Meow.